Hello and welcome back to Trend Watch 777. We're just going to get right into it because I know everyone already heard about there was another border control agency shoots and killed a man in Minnesota. So we're just going to get right into it. And this article here is by NBC News. The shooting captured on a video posted on Facebook and verified by NBC News was followed by a heated confrontation between officers and protesters who opposed the federal government's immigration enforcement tactics. So we're going to get to the video in a minute because I want to read maybe the first three paragraphs of this article. So Minneapolis, and this is Minneapolis, a federal immigration agent shot and killed a 37-year-old Minneapolis man Saturday, the second such fatal shooting this month, inflaming a state on edge after the shooting death of Renee Good in a series of high-profile detentions, including children. And I did do a video where ICE agent did detain a 5-year-old boy along with his father, even though the child wasn't the object of what they was going after. The father just happened to run away and left the child, and the agents picked him up. But they didn't even have to pick him up. They could have left him in the care of a responsible, safe adult, but they didn't. They choose to take the child in. So now back to this story. The man killed, identified by family as Alex Jeffrey Pretti, Pretti, and he was an intensive care nurse. He cared about people deeply, and he was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis and throughout the United States with ICE, as millions of people who are upset. His father, Michael Pretti, told the Associated Press he felt that doing the protesting was a way to express that, his care for others. So now I did not watch his video, but I'm going to play it right now.
So I want to bring in senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. And Julia, good evening. What are you hearing from your sources about the investigation into this incident?
Homeland Security Secretary Noem says DHS will be taking the lead on this investigation. And two law enforcement officials tell us it will be with the assistance of the FBI. For some, that raises questions about whether there will be an investigation into possible criminal civil rights violations, as is typical after a fatal shooting by a law enforcement officer. Secretary Noem said DHS could not partner with state investigators because Minnesota Governor Walz refuses to cooperate with ICE. Noem did not answer our questions about whether agents had body-worn cameras. It appears unlikely there will be any body camera footage as the Trump administration reversed a Biden-era executive order that required federal law enforcement agencies to begin wearing body-worn cameras. Jose?
This is just getting out of hand. And it started from the White House all the way down. I mean, he can put a stop to this by removing those troops, getting them off the streets. So now there's another video.
About a joyride.
What is that?
That's 12 years.
There's another video that I am going to play in a few minutes. Let me get rid of this one, and we're going to go over here and listen to what Governor Tim Walz has to say. He calls the Minneapolis shooting sickening. And this video, shout out to NBC News, and this is what Tim Walz has to say about the shooting.
Well, as I said last week, this federal occupation of Minnesota long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. It's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of our state. And today that campaign claimed another life. I've seen the videos from several angles, and it's sickening. But I have a strong statement here for our federal government. Minnesota's justice system will have the last word on this. It must have the last word. As I told the White House in no uncertain terms this morning, the federal government cannot be trusted to lead this investigation. The state will handle it, period. Let me say something else, and this is critically important. All of us understand what happened this morning and the tragedy of it, and my deepest sympathies to the family. of a 37-year-old Minnesota resident, a lawful firearm concealed permit carrier, something that I've been lectured to by Republicans for decades, that is not only right, it's your duty. We know that the potential to further inflame tensions is high, and to Minnesotans, there's a difference. We want calm and peace and normalcy back to our lives. They want chaos.
Yeah.
We cannot and we will not give them what they want by meeting violence with violence.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and
It is sickening. So some of the comments are saying Tim Walz is turning out to be one of the single dumbest politicians we have ever had in this country, and potentially, or a criminal one at that. Why would he say something like that? That's kind of whoa. Okay, so he's dead. Okay, why they're attacking Tim Walz for what reason? I don't know. No, this is not an attack on him, and it's not going to be one of those videos. So I'm going to go over here by ABC 7 News, and I think this has, let me see, man shot and killed by federal agents. All right, so maybe this is a little bit more video
ABC News
covering.
tonight identified the man killed as Alex Pretti, who was a registered nurse. The Associated Press says he was born here in Illinois. This comes as the mayor of Minneapolis is continuing his calls for immigration agents to leave the city and state after now the third shooting involving a federal agent in Minnesota. The Trump administration claiming the man Alex Pretti, seen here in a family photo, was a threat while armed with a gun. Minneapolis police say Pretti was a legal gun owner in an open carry state.
Cell video captures an apparent tussle between federal agents and a man on the ground in Minneapolis this morning before you hear gunfire. Federal officials confirming a Border Patrol agent shot and killed who they say was a man armed with a gun. President Trump posting on social media a picture of what he says was the man's loaded gun, saying further, quote, "Let our ICE patriots do their job." Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino speaking today about what he says led up to the shooting while agents were trying to arrest an undocumented man.
During this operation,
Hold on, I'm going to interrupt right now because there's another angle that shows the ICE agent. He took the gun. The gun was in the ICE agent's possession before the first shot was even fired. So they didn't show that angle on this here.
an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted.
Police say the man shot and killed was a 37-year-old Minneapolis resident, a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry. This is now the third shooting in Minnesota during the ongoing immigration operation in the state. Demonstrations have already been going on after the fatal shooting of Renee Good earlier this month.
Minnesota's justice system will have the last word on this. It must have the last word. As I told the White House in no uncertain terms this morning, the federal government cannot be trusted to lead this investigation.
And Illinois Representative Brad Schneider is also calling for a full investigation into the shooting and the firing of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he supports abolishing ICE, while Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is calling for the funding to stop for the agency. Rob?
Trey, thank you. And breaking news from Logan Square, where there was a demonstration in response to today's deadly shooting in Minneapolis. Protesters are calling for ICE to leave, and they want accountability for what they're calling rogue government agents. They marched from Illinois Centennial Monument to Palmer Square Park.
That is, wow. I am going to put it over here just for a minute. And I would like to see.
Now joining.
What is going on over here? I would like to see the angle where the ICE agent had possession of Pretti's weapon before the shots was even fired. Let
in
me
the area
see.
glammed all donuts in the streets and had a cell phone out recording, but then we're not sure what led up to the interaction at that moment between agents and the people that he appeared to be with.
Right, he seems to be in the street kind of waving a car through. Why, I don't really know. I think we have a picture of the man who was shot and killed. That is Alex Pretti, the man who's been identified as an ICU nurse who was shot and killed. The mayor saying he did have a permit to carry that weapon, or at least a weapon. But that is the man who has now been identified by his family as Alex Pretti, who is deceased after this morning's shooting by Border Patrol there at 26th and Nicollet.
And we do have available on Zoom right now Rob Dorr, the president of the Minnesota Gun Owners Law Center, to talk about use of force issues and his assessment of some of these cases that we have been following. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. This is now the third federal agent involved shooting in Minneapolis as a result of Operation Metro Surge. We had Renee Good January 7th. There was a man that ICE says they were trying to detain from Venezuela on January 14th, and then this one this morning. So if you could first just, I know there's a lot of video circulating. It's hard to draw conclusions because we don't see what was happening 15 minutes before this or what was happening right in the middle of that huddle. But what are your impressions of this situation so far?
Yeah, initially I was kind of, I had a little bit of skepticism seeing the DHS's initial statement that they made, because they said that the person approached them with a firearm. They didn't say that the firearm was drawn or that, threatened officers or anything like that, just that he had a firearm. And now every video that we've seen seems to indicate that there was no visible firearm at that point. So it's uncertain why there would have been any perception of a threat there. And then,
Right.
It's very
How
difficult to see what
know?
happens in that huddle. But one of the most recent clips that I've seen seems to indicate that prior to the shots being fired, one of the agents who didn't have a firearm in his hand reaches into the huddle, pulls out a firearm, and it matches the photo that DHS put out this morning perfectly. So my take of it is it looks like
Right, and then after the agent had the firearm in his hand and was going away is when the first shots were fired.
he was actually disarmed prior to the fatal shots being fired.
Wow, and as you said, there's a lot of angles, and it's hard to tell in that, like at what point did they see the weapon? Is, from what you can tell, any sign that the man on the ground was reaching for his weapon when it was pulled away? Anything like that? Hard to see in there, I know.
Yeah, the newest video angle that I've seen, it looks like that it's got the facing towards the man. Yeah, it's this video right here, and you see his arms are kind of pinned right in front of him as he's on the ground, and then then you see the agent in the gray coat there, who doesn't have a firearm in his hand, reach around and pull out a firearm. So right here, you see it looks like the man's. I think Mr. Pretty's arms are pinned down in front of him. So he's not reaching for his firearm. Both hands are right there. It's difficult to see what happens right in this second here, but we do see that the agent comes back with the firearm in his hand. That firearm matches the firearm that was photographed by DHS, saying that it was Mr. Pretty's firearm, and then that's when you hear the shots fired.
Do you know, it's been often said that there really only has to be the fear. A police officer or an agent needs to fear for his life or the lives of his coworkers, the people with him. But what is the threshold? I don't know if you know that answer. What is the threshold, or where that's reasonable?
So it's reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily harm. So they have to have a reasonable, based off of the circumstances, what would another person in that situation perceive it? You can't have an unreasonable fear, but it has to be reasonable for the circumstances. And,
I think a good question that needs to be asked is, when does the protester, the innocent people in all this, when should they start having a reasonable fear that their lives are in danger?
barring any more information, it seems like there's at least it's questionable whether or not a person who has been disarmed was capable.
As soon as that ICE agent pushed that person, that's a reasonable reasonable fear that your life is in danger. I mean, come on, he just pushing people. These ICE agents need to get off the street, and the Trump administration need to put an end to this. And I think this is by a purposeful design. I think it has to do with Trump's dislike towards Governor Tim Walz, because this is utterly ridiculous. This is some kind of sick, perverted revenge that Trump is issuing out on the city of Minneapolis. It doesn't make any sense. And he's the he has the highest position in the land, and he can put a stop to this immediately. But instead, he just add more fuel to the fire.
Capable of producing that deadly fear for police officers.
Right. We're speaking with Rob Dorr, the president of the Minnesota Gun Owners Law Center. We just want to make sure that we're reminding people who you are, what you represent, and that you are also a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment. So what are you thinking in terms of what the public needs to understand? Because I think there is an inclination to jump to conclusions. This is a very volatile time that we're living in, and videos are being shared the moment after something happens. And so what would you say in terms of investigating a situation like this? What does the public need to remember as all of this information is coming in so quickly?
Yeah, I think in the first 24 hours, the information we get isn't always the most accurate. I think initial reports was this man was a 51-year-old man. Mm-hmm. So things develop quickly, and so I think it's always good for people to absorb information, but keep it with a certain amount of skepticism. But then also, there are some things that are just objectively true that we can look at. Like,
what is she even talking about? I mean, everything was caught in 4K. Come on now.
Like for example, if he has a permit to carry, it's not unlawful to be carrying while you're exercising your First Amendment. You don't have to pick between which rights you exercise. It's not a crime to be near police officers. It's not a crime to be in a protest with a firearm. The crime comes when you actually take that firearm and cause somebody to be in fear of death or great bodily harm, or otherwise threaten them. That's the crime. So I think there are things that are objectively true, but then also things that are open to interpretation, and those tend to develop especially as time moves on after the first 24 hours.
And Rob, one of the questions I see that keeps coming up, you just mentioned that it's not illegal for somebody to be armed to be near police officers, but is there a reasonable distance that protesters should be keeping from armed federal agents or any police officers in terms of a protest or somebody who is anti the reason they're there?
For some reason, I don't like the way these questions are being presented like this. A man just lost his life. He was killed. Broad daylight. Everything caught in 4K. And she talking, hey, if y'all want to finish watching that video, I'm not even going to put the link in the description, but this is live now from Fox. So that's come on now. All right. Okay. Now let's just see what else can we watch, cuz let me see, video show. I want to see some angle. Okay, here's another one. I'm sorry, that just pissed me off.
Tim is here to talk about some perspectives on that.
Is this the same thing?
Yeah,
Fox
right.
Again?
There's kind of a potential disconnect with the narrative from the head of the Border Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security. Tim Blott's now in the newsroom with more on this one. Tim?
Yes, this is an instance where, in fact, before we knew Alex's name here this afternoon and the background of the DHS statement here, they called him an individual, I'm going to quote here, who wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. That's their words, their statement. I think by now a lot of you have seen the videos, and so too is Rob Dorr, who's the president of the Minnesota Gun Owners Law Center. According to Chief O'Hara this afternoon, Mr. Pretti was a gun owner with a permit to carry. And as Rob Dorr looked at the videos, he noticed that there was no visible firearm on Mr. Pretti. And Rob also observed that Mr. Pretti was perhaps disarmed before he was shot. Now, Rob watched that video with us this afternoon during our live coverage here, and here's what he had to say.
You see his arms are kind of pinned right in front of him as he's on the ground, and then then you see the agent in the gray coat there, who doesn't have a firearm in his hand, reach around and pull out a firearm. So right here you see it looks like the man's I think Mr. Pretti's arms are pinned down in front of him. So he's not reaching for his firearm. Both hands are right there. Yeah, it's difficult to see what happens right in this second here, but we do see that the agent comes back with the firearm in his hand. That firearm matches the firearm that was photographed by DHS, saying that it was Mr. Pretti's firearm, and then that's when you hear the shots fired.
And again, that's the perspective of Rob Dorr, who's the president of the Minnesota Gun Owners Law Center. And I can assure you, Rob is a frequent testifier at the state capitol on Second Amendment rights. And as a part of that same interview this afternoon, Rob noted to us that if Mr. Pretti had a permit to carry, it's not unlawful to be carrying while exercising your First Amendment rights. And Rob told us you don't have to pick between which rights you exercise. Karen, Simone?
All right, thanks, Tim. Yeah, that's the thing, is so many people are of course going to go off of what they see in the video, and you have these split moments, right? And things happen so fast, so people trying to analyze what we have seen in these a couple of videos, but of course this investigation does have to play out.
Right, and obviously there's so many opinions here. I mean, you go online and it's all over the place as to exactly what unfolded. But yeah, we need to collect all those videos and all the evidence that we can before you draw some conclusions. You have to kind of be a little bit open-minded. And right now there's very different stories coming from DHS and of course from local leaders as well.
Yeah, it's important to mention that Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, he did say that Pretti resisted. He mentioned that the patrol agents then fired those defensive shots. So then that goes to the narrative on both sides here, as we have constantly seen this sort of split happening, as this is the third incident involving federal agents at this point.
Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go over here and I am going to end this video right here. But I will say our thoughts and prayers are to the Pretti family, their friends, as well as his co-workers. And what is this here? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got this distracted. Yes. Keep the Minnesota in your family. I mean, in your prayers, because there's no words for what's happening now, and the person that can put an end to this is not putting an end to this, and we just have to definitely keep, like I said, keep the Pretti family, friends, co-workers in your prayers, because this is not good. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, and I will see you. Excuse me. I will see you in my next video. All right, I'm out. Be blessed.